If you own a patent on a multi-billion-dollar invention that is reshaping human society, standard business logic dictates that you protect it at all costs. You build a wall around that IP and charge a premium to everyone who wants access. Yet, Google just did something that, on the surface, makes absolutely no commercial sense. On April 2nd, Google took the model weights, the primary intellectual property behind their high-efficiency AI model, and just released them to the public. No usage fees, no billing, and a full commercial license. You can download this asset, package it into a commercial product, sell it for a profit, and use it to compete directly against Google using their own multi-billion-dollar research. In the cutthroat world of technology empires, that is not normal behavior. But a much bigger game is being played here, a game that redefines how monetization actually works in the era of artificial intelligence. Today, we decode the real business mechanics behind this unprecedented giveaway and analyze the invisible AI war happening behind closed doors. To understand why Google is giving away digital wealth, you have to look at the cracks forming in the foundation of the current market leader, OpenAI. The mainstream narrative paints OpenAI as an untouchable behemoth, but the underlying financial reality reveals massive structural vulnerabilities. OpenAI operates almost entirely on a closed-source, cloud-dependent model that requires an astronomical cash burn rate. They do not own the physical infrastructure. They are effectively paying massive rent to Microsoft for compute power. Every single time a user interacts with ChatGPT, OpenAI pays a compute tax. To survive, they are forced to charge premium API fees just to keep the servers running. Google and Meta see this vulnerability clearly and understand a fundamental law of tech economics. If you want to destroy a competitor's premium product, you commoditize their core offering. By releasing hyper-capable open-source models like Gemma and Llama for free, Google and Meta are systematically driving the baseline price of artificial intelligence down to zero. They are taking what OpenAI sells as a luxury, high-margin service and turning it into a free, basic utility. This is a ruthless, calculated strategy designed to suffocate OpenAI's core revenue stream. The moat in AI is no longer the algorithm, it is distribution and compute power. Google owns its own hardware in the form of TPUs, and Meta has stockpiled billions of dollars in GPUs. They can afford to give the software away to protect their real revenue engines, cloud dominance for Google, and attention-based advertising for Meta. Furthermore, this open-source war is about human capital. The top AI researchers in the world do not want to build breakthrough technology, only to have it locked inside a corporate vault where their peers cannot study it. By championing open-source models, Google and Meta are executing the ultimate recruiting strategy, draining talent away from closed ecosystems. But this macro strategy only works if the free product is actually capable and operationally viable, which brings us to the mechanics of what Gemma actually is. When you use a closed system like ChatGPT, you are operating in a model of cloud-feudalism. Your prompt leaves your computer, travels over the internet to a sprawling server farm owned by a multi-billion-dollar entity, and they charge you for the processing power. In this ecosystem, text is broken into small chunks called tokens, and you pay micro fees for every single token that goes in and comes out. Those costs add up exponentially when you build a real product. Your laptop is just a screen. The expensive thinking is happening elsewhere, and you don't own the data or the asset. Gemma is a total paradigm shift because it is open weights. This means you download the core model file once, storing it directly on your machine. Think of these weights as the actual learned knowledge of the model, frozen into data. Once that file is on your hardware, everything runs locally. Your CPU, your GPU, your RAM, no internet connection, no external server costs, and no API bills. Google has zero control and zero involvement once you click download. This model of ownership is exactly why Meta's Llama model captured the entire developer community overnight. They released the model weights openly, and within days, the open source community built an entire ecosystem of tools that allowed anyone to run a powerful model on a standard consumer laptop with a single command. Gemma was built to slot directly into that existing ecosystem. The true breakthrough isn't local AI itself, it's the quality of what you can now host locally. The gap between monolithic, closed-source cloud models and free, local, open-source models just closed, which dramatically increases the value of a digital asset built on open models. Google achieved this through engineering marvels designed specifically for limited hardware. In traditional AI architecture, data flows through every layer of the model completely unchanged, which consumes massive power. It's like a corporate hierarchy where the CEO demands every single department review every single email, whether it's relevant to them or not. The efficiency is disastrous. Google engineered Gemma to run on restricted hardware by giving each individual layer its own dedicated signal for every piece of data it receives. It gets a slightly richer and more specific picture. Instead of asking every department to review the whole email, the CEO summarizes the email specifically for that department before it arrives. This architectural shift means the model requires dramatically less space and power to operate intelligently. The result is that their 2B model runs in under 1.5 gigabytes of memory. That's less space than most applications already installed on your smartphone. Yet this model can process text, images, and audio completely offline. The market potential for integrating this degree of intelligence into decentralized edge devices, cars, phones, and sensors is massive and entirely untouched. But the technology that truly disrupted the engineering community is the 26B model. To explain why this generated such massive traction, we must analyze a concept called mixture of experts, or MOE. Historically, every AI model was a dense model consisting of billions of mathematical functions called parameters, which act as tiny, specialized dials trained to recognize specific patterns in language or logic. In a dense model, every single dial turns for every single word you input. This works for small models, but as models scale to tens of billions of parameters, it becomes operationally impossible, excessively expensive, too slow, and requires hardware that 99% of businesses cannot access. Mixture of experts is the decentralized, capitalistic solution to that operational bottleneck. Instead of one giant network where everyone does everything, you split the model into multiple smaller networks, which are the specialized experts. Then you add a lightweight dispatcher node. The dispatcher evaluates each word that comes in and determines exactly which specialists are required to process that specific word, while the rest sit idle. The critical insight here is that while all specialists carry the knowledge of the full training data, operationally, you only activate and pay the compute cost of the few needed for the task. You are accessing the collective wisdom of a monolithic corporation, but you are only paying the overhead of a few focused contractors. Google's 26B model utilizes 128 such specialized experts, but for every token that comes in, only 8 of them activate. While all 26 billion parameters are sitting in memory, only 3.8 billion are actually doing work at any given moment. This means you are essentially running a model with the immense knowledge base of a 26 billion parameter model, but at the operational running cost of a tiny 4 billion parameter model. Benchmarks validate this efficiency, proving that the 26B model, with only 3.8 billion active parameters, scores nearly identical numbers to dense models that are computationally far larger. For engineers and product builders, that efficiency differential isn't just an interesting metric. It is the absolute difference between a viable business model with healthy margins and a digital asset that bleeds cash. But operational efficiency doesn't create monetization alone. Licensing does. Previously, Gemma models utilized custom Google licenses that seemed open on the surface, but were riddled with gray areas and restrictions that caused major enterprise legal teams to flag them as massive risks. Corporate clients stayed away because the legal ambiguity was simply not worth the exposure. Google recognized this bottleneck and pivoted. Gemma now utilizes the Apache 2 license. This is not a new or vague standard. It is a globally understood, battle-tested open-source protocol that has been around for decades. This means no revenue limits, no user thresholds, no reporting requirements back to Google, and completely zero legal friction. You can integrate this model, further optimize it through fine-tuning on your proprietary data, sell it, and profit. For engineers working in healthcare, fintech, or government, this license is a critical unlock. These are highly regulated industries where data by law cannot leave the internal servers. Cloud AI was never an option for patient records, financial histories, or national security data, but an Apache 2.0 license model that runs entirely on the organization's own hardware? That is a fully compliant, operational solution. If you are building an AI tool for a bank to detect fraud, and that bank demands their financial data never leave their premise, Gemma is the answer. Google isn't just giving away software. They are providing the foundational architecture for the next decade of decentralized computing power, opening up lucrative enterprise revenue streams that closed models like OpenAI's could never touch. This leads us to the final, critical question. Why is Google willingly arming developers to dismantle the centralized AI monopoly? Because Google watched the speed of the open source community with alarm, and they saw they were losing control. Meta, with Llama, had successfully captured the loyalty of the developer ecosystem. When developers get comfortable with a specific model family, they build proprietary tools around it, master its operational quirks, and build complex workflows that absolutely require it. That ecosystem loyalty is the absolute foundation of future power. If Google only kept their models closed behind Gemini, they would maintain absolute control over the high-end premium market for a short time, but they would quickly become irrelevant to the massive next generation of builders. The open model is a classic loss leader. It's the cheap printer before you are forced to buy the ink, or the dollar store software before you are hooked on the monthly subscription. Google gives away Gemma to ensure that developers build on their infrastructure rather than a competitor's. And when that developer's local prototype succeeds and needs to move to massive production, when that startup needs to serve millions of global requests per day and a local laptop can no longer manage the scale, where do they go? The conversion to Google Cloud is immediate and logical. Their entire development stack already runs on Gemma. Switching ecosystems at that critical scaling point creates immense operational friction. The Google Cloud ecosystem, including enterprise solutions like Vertex AI, are integrated into Gemma by default. The entire local optimization play is nothing more than a massive global conversion funnel to future cloud revenue. This is not a technical gift. It is a ruthless land grab for loyalty in the war against Meta for developer mindshare and a structural assault on OpenAI's business model. We must permanently deconstruct the belief that AI will always be a centralized utility that requires perpetual rent to a single tech giant. That model is not going away entirely, but it is no longer the only way to generate digital value. And for a rapidly growing number of enterprise use cases, it is no longer the best one. Google isn't giving their crown jewels away because they are generous. They are doing it because an AI ecosystem that relies fundamentally on Google's models, even the free ones, permanently secures Google's economic dominance for the future. The Trojan horse is already inside the developer's door. The only remaining question is, can you identify the shifting mechanics of digital value and build your own empire with it? We break down exactly how power and money work. Subscribe to Wealth Decoded for more deep dives into strategic mechanics. Drop a comment below. Are you building your business with local AI or relying on the cloud? I'll see you in the next analysis.